Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special simulcast, the Neil Haley Show and the Love Is Podcast. I'm excited to welcome the host of the Love Is Podcast, Kim Sorrell. Kim, how are you? And, when you talk the shows and you get really, really excited, Kim, it's one of your favorite shows, I know.
I do. I was in the theaters, like the very first showing I could possibly go to see the first three episodes of season 4. And I love The Chosen. I love what you guys are doing. I love both of your characters. Kirk B.R. Waller, you have been in over 170 films. You got to be kidding me. I don't know. We're the same age, and I can't imagine that kind of energy to be in that many films and TV shows, X-Files, and so much more. You played college football. Man, I don't know who knows that about you, but you played college football and won some awards, leadership awards, and have done all kinds of things. Welcome to the show, Joey Vahidi. Oh my word, Joseph, I love your character. It's just amazing. And Joey, you've done some great things. You're an earthbender. I think that's pretty amazing. So anyway, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have both of you here. How is season 4 going for you with the big launch? And did you ever expect it to be in theaters?
It's been remarkable to see the feedback that we've been getting. I mean, we started off as this indie web series. No one really knew what was going to happen with the show. And then here we are 4 seasons later, about to shoot season 5 in this coming spring. It's become this global phenomenon. It's reached over 700 million people. We have people from all different parts of the world telling us about how much they love the show, how they feel they connect to these characters. They feel like they're seeing these stories in a completely different light for the first time. So, as a performer and just a human being, it's so cool to see the impact that this show has had on people.
That's awesome. Kirk, same question to you.
Well, I will say it's strange to see your head the size of a bus when you go to the movie theater itself. That's always very trippy to see. And yeah, I mean, come on, I'm blown away by the success of the show, and it's a privilege of a lifetime to be a part of something that seems to be having so much genuine impact on people. Like, all theatrical businessy stuff aside, the fact that people are having it has an effect on their lives. I mean, what a great thing is that? I think we all want to try to do good in this life, right? And so to be a part of something that seems to be doing good, amazing. And the fact that it's in movie theaters and there is a collective experience and that it's doing so well at the box office. I think it's up to 14 million for the first 3 episodes, and the next 3 are starting today. Yeah, isn't that crazy? $14 million, 15 million. It's great. So it's a blessing, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah, well, and they want to put it out in 600 languages, which I think is incredible, very ambitious, but God can kind of do anything because he's kind of cool that way. So, Kirk, you played Gaius, and
Yes,
what
ma'am.
an interesting character. I think it's so great to have Gaius on the show, to have this balance, because I think so much in life we think of good guys and bad guys, and nobody thinks they're a bad guy, right? Like, Gaius
Yes.
doesn't realize he's on the bad guy team, because it's just kind of funny to me. So you kind of play, one foot in each world. And what is it like? How do you see the good guy, bad guy thing?
Well, I don't, you said it so beautifully. I'm so happy to hear you say that. Nobody thinks they're a bad person, ever. And you could take the most notorious people in history. Nobody thinks they're bad. Everybody has a reason for why they do what they do. They justify what they do. All of us do, from cheating on our taxes to infidelity to whatever. Everybody has a reason that's justified, and they stand behind that reason. So nobody thinks they're doing a bad thing. So I think it's the same. That was my approach. You can never judge a character. I know Joey, I believe, is the same way. You can't judge the character you play. You have to honor them, step into the shoes. Literally, I'm stepping into the shoes of somebody else. So I need to honor that. I need to respect that. And it's very easy to vilify Rome. Hey, Rome's pretty rocking. They did some amazing things. They did occupy, but they also brought infrastructure and water and medicine and so many great things. The calendar. So,
Yeah.
you have to look at things. Hey, Super Bowl They're still using Roman numerals, just saying. So you got to have perspective on this. So I think I approach it in that way, as humanly as possible.
Now, Joey, is your character a bad guy, a good guy? That's a good question, right? You know, because some people think of him as good and some bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Well, Thomas, I think, has this unfair reputation of being called Doubting Thomas. You know,
Right.
I don't think Thomas is a doubter at all. If anything, I think he's someone who questions. And the reason he questions is because of how much he loves Jesus. I think a lot of people can identify with that. I don't think anyone ever questions someone that they love or something that they love because they don't care. I think they question because they care so much and they're afraid to lose that. So I do think doubter is probably not the best phrase for him, and I would say if anything, he probably, in my opinion, cares about Jesus the most.
See, that's an interesting thing. Kim, would you agree with that point? I wouldn't, but I haven't gotten the chance to really go through and binge through The Chosen, which is going to take me a long time. But really, that I would think it differently the way I was taught about Thomas. Kim.
Oh yeah, no, I love the way Thomas is portrayed for sure. And I absolutely. And even in the Bible though, he had a moment of doubt. It's not like he was just a doubter. It was just a moment of doubt and wanted some proof, right? But otherwise he was a faithful follower. And I love it that you seem so intimidated by Yasmin's beauty, you know, Rama's beauty, and how that dynamic works is so cool. One thing that I love about The Chosen too is that it's so groundbreaking in the way that Dallas has put it together, and I think about like his dad with the Left Behind series. That was groundbreaking, and then this too is groundbreaking, and to put it out there, the life of Jesus in a way that is so human and so incredible. And I love that. And Joey, I think I heard a story about when you were first on the set and Jesus came over and knocked into you, and
Yeah,
what was that
yeah,
about?
yeah. So this was I was only on set for 1 week in season one. It was the last week of filming, and this is the moment where we were about to film Thomas and Jesus looking at the urns filled, you know, and wondering like, what are we going to do now that the wine is out? They're standing next to each other, and I think they're both standing like this, right? Before the take, this was probably like 2 a.m. We were shooting this, and before the take, Jonathan walked by me and just kind of, you know, gave me a little nudge on the shoulder, and I looked back, and he didn't look at me, he didn't really acknowledge me or anything, but it was kind of this unspoken thing where he was kind of saying to me in a way like, hey, you know, I'm coming for you, or whatever it was, right? Or like, get ready. And you know, that's probably like my second day on set or something like that. But it was such a great moment because it was his way of telling me we're teammates, right? We're doing this together. And I think that transfers over to a lot of what you see on screen, because in a way, everybody is a teammate. All the disciples are this team of people who, like a sports team, each have their own individual unique role and job to do. And sometimes that stuff clashes because people feel like someone's not holding up their end of the bargain or what it is. With season 4, I think you're going to see a lot of that stuff happening. And I think you're going to start to see people getting really scared because their leader is now doing things that are seriously endangering people. It's no longer just a radical message. It is a radical message to the highest of authorities, and people are taking notice.
All right. So season 4 available in theaters, The Chosen. Appreciate it, guys. Worldwide. Thanks for stopping by. We're back to the Neil Haley Show here on the Total Celebrity segment and the Media Giant Effect. And I'm excited to welcome my co-host, author of Love Is, and soon the podcast Love Is, Kim Sorrell. Kim, how are you? And I know you're excited about our guest.
Neil, I am doing great. Thank you so much. I hope you are too.
I'm always, and I love having our conversations and really how you bring this great chemistry with us. So I'm excited about our guest today.
Yeah, well, thanks. I am too. David, It is a pleasure to meet you, David Skolton. Your story is amazing. So first there was a documentary on your life after you submitted a paper. I live on Parker Avenue. And then Kirk Cameron saw the movie. Is that what happened? And it became Lifemark, and now it's this big movie and doing so great. Is it
Yeah,
how it happened?
yeah. So I first started sharing the story in 2011, and at that time, the story was just that my birth mother was in an abortion clinic and left and chose adoption. That's how I'm here today. And as you can tell, the story has continued to transform over the next few years to the point where we decided to go ahead and meet my birth family after we heard from my birth mother for the first time. That meeting was filmed into the documentary called I Lived on Parker Avenue. And we were blessed to be able to tour I Lived on Parker Avenue all around the country and meet so many other people who have their own adoption stories. And as part of one of those talks, my mom and I were in Fallbrook, California, and someone there knew Kirk. I didn't know Kirk. I knew who he was, but I never talked to him before. Someone there knew Kirk, saw us talk, saw the documentary, and sent it to him. And Kirk gets sent so many things. So he didn't watch it at first. And thankfully, Chelsea was like, Kirk, you really got to watch this one. And so she made him sit down and watch it. Then he's in his kitchen. He starts crying because it was so emotional. And then that's when he reached out to me and said, David, I actually remember this phone call distinctly because I was leaving a law school class. I got a call from a California number. I didn't know who it was. I answered it and he says, David. And I say, hello, who's this? And he says, it's Kirk Cameron. And I go, oh, hey, how's it going? He says, David, I saw your documentary. This has to be a full feature film. How can you make that happen? And that's what started everything. I connected him with my birth family and my family. And then he got the Kendricks involved. And then a few years later, we had this beautiful movie called Lifemark.
All right, so David, kind of listening to that whole story, when first Kirk said it, were you thinking, okay, this is going to happen? Or you know how the industry works, especially going in the documentary, how much of a challenge for your hustling to get it out to different distributors and different things as a documentary. So when Kirk said, well, I'm going to make this a movie, you knew it's not guaranteed it's going to happen right off the bat, or maybe never happen, right? Because you understood the industry from what you were doing as a documentary, right?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, when he called me, I was excited. Um, and it took like over a year of talks and getting the right people involved to actually make it fruitful and make it happen. And in between that, remember COVID happened. And so at that point, I was like, oh man, like I really hope that this movie's still gonna happen. And I was just letting Kirk and the Kendricks do their thing, and eventually we got the news that filming's gonna start, and we're like, whew, sigh of relief, it's actually gonna happen. So we're just so excited that it actually happened. And yeah, I was excited, but I was cautiously optimistic.
That's a great way to be in this
Yeah.
industry. That's good. So your story, a couple things that touched me. I was crying. I was bawling through most of it, but your attitude toward your birth parents, toward your birth mom, probably in particular, that you were never angry. Like I've known people who have been that are adopted that have bad feelings toward their birth parents. Why did they give them up? Or they have abandonment issues, and you seem to not have that stuff. What is it
No,
like?
yeah. I mean, I'm just thankful for them. I mean, they were in a tough decision, tough place to be in, and they made a tough decision. And originally, they weren't going to make that decision, and in the end, they did, and they chose adoption, and that's how I'm here today. So I've been nothing but thankful for them, because I know that they easily could have chosen an arguably easier solution to their problem at the time, and they didn't. So I'm just thankful for them. I've never had any abandonment issues. I understand that people do, but I've been nothing but thankful for them, and they allowed me to have the family that I have today. I just love my family so much, and we're a small knit group, so we're all just so happy and blessed to know Melissa and Brian.
So let's talk about specifically enough the difference between the documentary and the movie, because the documentary tells your life story. There was a lot of interviews, different things like that. Then to put it into a movie, how much feedback did you have involvement in this movie, and how did that develop in some of the characters and really the storyline of the film when people get to see the film?
Yeah. So there's a lot of movies that say inspired by a true story or based on a true story, and they're really not. This one says inspired by a true story, and that's because it really is inspired by a true story. Kirk and the Kendricks, they were almost calling me every day, multiple times a day, to get even the most minuscule details accurate on our story. They were very respectful of the story, of the truth behind the story, and they did an excellent job making this movie as truthful as possible to the actual true lives that we lived. And that's why this movie is also so special for us because it's so close to the true story, to the
So
point
how is
where Kirk actually came to our house. And my dad has this weird obsession with doing dishes. Like he actually likes doing dishes. I've never heard anyone say that, but he loves it. And so Kirk sees that, and Kirk goes over there and starts doing the dishes with him. He's like, "Are you doing this because I'm here, or are you doing this because for some other reason?" He's like, "Oh, I'll do this every night. This is my thing." And so Kirk said, "Wow, well, this has got to be in the movie." So there's a scene of my dad, Kirk, doing dishes in the movie, and that's because Kirk came to our house and in real life, and that's what my dad likes to do. So little things like that are throughout the movie, and so they did a really good job.
Wow, that's so cool. What is it like to see your life story on the big screen?
It's a little, it's just surreal. I mean, to see it so many times in the documentary form. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen it in the documentary form, and then to go on set and see actors recreate the scenes that we lived was absolutely surreal. Just to have experienced the emotions, see it over and over again in the documentary, and then go onto a set and see people literally looking at our documentary and recreating those emotions is nothing but surreal. And it honestly really hasn't hit me yet. I've been to the theater maybe twice already to see it. I've seen 11 different cuts of the movie, and I just feel blessed to be a part of it. And it's so crazy to just sit back and just see everything unplay itself on the big screen. And it's just never would have thought this would ever happen.
And that's the thing. And so talking about how they cast each person for the movie, were you surprised certain people acting, playing certain roles in the movie? Like how they put that together?
I've met every cast member on this set, and all of them feel like extended family to us. I mean, we met them, and then 10 minutes later, felt like we've known them for 5 years. They did an excellent job in all of their roles, and I don't know how they did it. I mean, just to be in some of the scenes that they're in. There's some emotional scenes in there, and they did an excellent job of this is coming from someone who actually lived it. They did an excellent job of getting those emotions down, and I couldn't have asked for anybody better to play me in the movie, other than maybe Harrison Ford. That'd be pretty cool, but he's a little old now.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit older than you're portrayed in the movie.
Yeah,
A little older than 19. Is that
yeah,
that you
yeah.
are right?
And
19?
and what's unique about it too for the other characters in the movie, like Melissa and my mom. I mean, you see them. For Melissa, you have two different Melissas. You have her when she was 18. You have her when she was older, or what they like to say, more mature. And then you have Kirk, and they actually de-age him using this complicated technology. I'm not a tech guy, but yeah, they actually de-age him like 20 years and then send him back to his usual self. So I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in this movie to keep the characters as true as possible.
How excited are you, David, about and seeing faith-based films and how they're going skyrocketing in the box office and the success of so far this film, and then looking at other ones as well. These we know from the days from God's Not Dead, and then the other ones that have developed and have gone even to the mainstream with
Yeah.
the Kurt Warner story. Are you happy to see that people are really wanting to see something like this? They don't want to see negative stuff. They don't want to see certain things. They want to see stuff that the whole family could go see, and it has a mission. Are you how I think you must feel great to know that your story is there, but how it's doing so well, this type of film in audiences
Yeah.
all over the country.
I can't believe it's doing this well. I mean, it just I went to the theater on opening night, and I went again on a Tuesday night. There were actually the opening night was packed. There were actually even more people on Tuesday night. So people are going to see a movie on adoption on a Tuesday night. Like people are excited about this movie. And honestly, the advertising seems to be mostly word of mouth. Like people are really getting this story out there on the grassroots side. And that is just touching to me because I've been sharing the story since 2011. And to know that it's impacted so many people already, and now it's impacting people to the extent where they're wanting to promote this movie because they want other people to go see this story, is just so exciting to me. And last night we found out, my family found out that they've extended it in 1,041 theaters. And some theaters have tripled the amount of showtimes they're having. The local theater here now has some matinees, which before they weren't matinees. So Hollywood really messed up on this one. They could have made a lot of money on this movie, but I'm glad that Fathom decided to take it up, because this movie is just doing so well, and we're just glad that people are seeing it.
Hollywood's messing up with a lot of things where they're not
Yeah.
understanding, and they're only having a few films come out a year, and they're seeing that movies are not. They're assessing that movies are not. People don't want to go see movies in the theater anymore, and that's untrue. And it's because they want, certain blockbuster, they want certain stories, certain narratives, and people are just ignoring it and saying, I don't want to go see that.
Yeah.
And there's not the options with all the streaming platforms and everything. Why go see a movie unless it really touches somebody? And Kim, this is what this movie has done. It's touched lives all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's wonderful to see also where Christian films have come, how far they've come, because they used to be a little cheesy.
Yeah.
And, people didn't really want to watch them. You'd watch them in your Sunday school, or whatever. Your parents would make you sit down and watch them. And now they are quality, high quality films and comparable or better than any other movie that you're going to see out there.
Yep.
So what great timing for you, David.
Amazing timing.
And,
Couldn't agree with you
and
more.
you think about, David, how Kirk is able to, so many years after Growing Pains, being able to go and keep his brand going, building it to a level that he has in the Christian communities, and how he's taking this ability and then saying, well, I can create these films, I can be part of these films, and really just dominate the industry. He's figuring it out, and it's about a tribe, it's about an audience, it's about growth, and that's what happens, right? When you have that movement, there's no stopping it, because it's all about letting the people know about things. There's a lot of good things out there that people just don't know about because they don't have the audience, and Kirk does, and he's bringing it, and he put the right people together, and it's fantastic. So, David, what is your ultimate hope for people to learn about your story?
I hope that people will go see LifeMark and realize that I lived on Parker Avenue because my birth mother chose adoption. That's the reality of adoption. It can save lives and build families. And I hope that people will see that adoption is a beautiful option. It's not a second option. It's not a better or worse option. And that an adopted child is just like a biological child. Adoptive parents are just like the real parents. And that's what adoption is. And that's why this movie is so powerful, because there's not many resources out there to share the adoption option. And that's what this movie is. That's what the documentary is, and that's what the movie is. It'll allow people a forum and a resource to say, hey, this is what adoption can do. This is a real viable option. And look, I've been sharing this story since 2011. I probably sound like a broken record, but if adoption was ever an important issue to be talking about before, it certainly is now. And this timing wasn't planned. I mean, this was supposed to release a few years ago. So that just shows God's providential timing with this movie. It couldn't come out at a better time.
Especially when people are figuring out, what are we going to do with Roe v. Wade being overturned, and different places in the country. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Have the child and put it up for adoption, like that situation. And I know it's a challenge, but that person's giving something instead of losing it. And now the options are less for them. So definitely, instead of going to 4 states and have that, God forbid, abortion, they can give that child to somebody, a family that really needs it. Because again, it's hard for some family parents to have kids, and it's not the easiest thing at times. And adoption might be the best option. And you're bringing that story to light. All right, Kim, I know you want to definitely have a question about Love Is in this. Ask him your Love Is question.
All right. So, David, I dedicated a full year to figuring out the true meaning of love, because love is a little ambiguous, and people think of love in different ways. And and get love wrong a lot. And part of your story is people could have gotten love wrong, but they didn't. But so the things I learned about love have rocked my world, just changed my life. And I want to know, like, what is the love for you? What is that for you with your family, and then also with your birth mom? I want to hear.
That's an interesting question. I don't think I've been asked that before. Um, I mean, I don't really know how to answer that other than just to say that to me, my adoption has been love, right? I mean, my birth mother's decision to place me for adoption was a loving decision. Um, my parents' decision to adopt me was a loving decision. And so I just attribute adoption as love, and I hope that people will agree with that message when they go see LifeMark and hopefully go see Other Than Parker Avenue.
Yeah, I like your answer a lot. I like that because there are those actions definitely just shout love.
So
And
what's next for David after this film? What are you thinking of doing next? Are you going to do another documentary? Are you going to be producing documentaries? What's new for David?
Maybe there'll be a sequel. I don't know. There's not going to be a sequel. I don't know. I mean, it kind of feels like a chapter's closing, but look, I've said a chapter's closing before, and something new happens. So I'm open to wherever God's calling me to go and do. Adoption's been a big part of my life. I've considered a public service for so long. Public service has always been important to me. So we'll see. We'll see what the future holds.
Awesome. Where can people find information on you, David? Best place to go.
Yeah, so I have a site, davidscotton.com, which is really just the hub for linking the documentary and the movie, and my speaking requests, because I've been blessed to be able to speak and share our story, and I hope that I'll continue to be able to do that. Other than that, you can go to lifemarkmovie.com or otherthanparkerave.com and go check out those movies. They're good.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, David.
Yeah.
Great story, great information. And I mean, I tell you, people need to definitely see a film like this. And then also just to give somebody an opportunity, as David's parents did, by giving them up for adoption, such a big thing that changed his life, and how David's transforming lives because of it. So I appreciate it, David. We're back here to the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Love Is Podcast. I'm excited to welcome the host of the Love Is Podcast, Kim Sorrell. Kim, how are you? And I know you're excited about our two guests.
Of course, I'm excited about our two guests. I'm doing great. Thanks, Neil. I'm actually at the National Christian Media Convention here in Nashville. So if people walk behind me, sorry, Donald Trump is going to be speaking behind me at some point. But anyway, two of my favorite casts from The Chosen, George Harrison Xanthus and Luke Dimion. I love you guys, and you're both so talented and have done so many things beyond what you're doing now. And you're both really funny from what I understand, and musical from what I understand. So the set has got to be pretty fun. First, George, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. And you played John the Beloved, who does a lot of writing. And so I'm curious, George, how did you even end up on The Chosen?
It's funny, like a lot of people get some, especially maybe even Luke, like you can ask them how they auditioned, and it might be kind of simple. I auditioned for the role, but I actually went in for Simon Peter because there weren't enough lines for John in the opening 4 episodes. My first line for those Chosen nerds out there was "Go get caught in a net." So I imagine that's a very difficult like kind of scene to just try and like, is that John? Like to just get like 400 people coming in to say one line. So no, they get you to read a scene for Simon Peter, and then they kind of get a vibe. It didn't end there for me. I actually went in the next day. Dallas was like, here's 7 pages, and it was for Quintus, the Roman praetor. And then the day after, I landed John. So I played Simon Peter very stoic and very like, very serious. And then I played Quintus as very, cheeky and kind of brash. And maybe John exists somewhere between those two.
I'm imagining you bald now, and it is the most beautiful thing I think that's ever come to my brain.
By the way, thank goodness I didn't get the role of Quintus, because, oh my God, Brandon is perfect.
Oh my God, Brandon is a powerhouse.
He's
So
perfect.
good.
Now, George, did you learn a lot about John preparing for this role?
100%. 100%. Now, I mean, I have to admit, I thought I was playing John the Baptist. I didn't. I didn't even. I kind of forgot that there was a John the disciple, and then someone's like Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And I was kind of scared because I was like, oh, John the Baptist. I know he might die early in the series. I was just kind of like thinking as an actor a little bit. And then when they said John, I like researched, it was like the last apostle. I was like, oh, good. There's spin-off potential for John. No, but I actually as research, I've read John's gospel. I'd never read it before. And you were just saying before, like John as a great writer, he honestly is. I would highly recommend people even explore the ancient Greek writings if you can. It's very difficult to translate from ancient Greek into English, but it's a fascinating book when you have the ancient Greek context. And me being Greek, I was so proud about that. I didn't know that he wrote his book in ancient Greek. He wrote a lot of his stuff on Patmos, which is in Greece, very close to my family's island in Greece. So this is all the stuff I learned about John. He's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, that is so cool. Yeah, John is a pretty cool guy. There is some stuff that, you and I can talk about offset sometime that John wrote and your take on it.
Yeah.
And Luke, you have the roles of the biggest villain probably ever in the history of the world, Judas. And I would like to ask you the same question. How did you get Judas? But even deeper than that, what did you think when that's the role that you got?
Oh, again, I'm sorry. My answer is actually a little less fun than George's. I got submitted by my management team. I auditioned a few times, first for characters that I thought I was going for, and then they just kept sending me different character sides. And eventually, they were like, "Oh, can we have your number? We want to send him something special." And we're like, "They can have my email. I don't know about number." And then they sent me the sides for Apprentice, and they were like, "Oh, for context, this is Judas." I was like, "Great, cool." And then I auditioned for it, and Dallas took one look at me. And was like, "Yeah, gross. He's perfect. Cast him." And that's how I got it. And I'm honestly pretty happy. I love complicated characters, and it's fun to play this one. So yeah.
Do you like the fact of playing a bad guy? Have you played bad guys before?
I've definitely played some bad guys before. I've played some tragic heroes before, especially when I was studying acting. There have been many times I've gotten to play parts of Hamlet and Macbeth, which I know I'll never actually get a chance to play Macbeth, but that's a very same type of a guy who started out as a hero and then slowly devolved into um just a broken king who is paranoid to all end. It's cool to just play these kinds of characters that you could even just easily paint off as a villain, but actually are a bit more complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Judas is a good guy for a long time. He's not necessarily a bad guy the whole time, right? I mean, he's walking with Jesus and learning and figuring stuff out and taking a little money here and there, but still, pretty devout until things go bad at the end. But we haven't gotten there yet in The Chosen, and so it is a complicated character. But I have seen some of your Facebook, and you probably will be in Macbeth someday. You'll probably be in all of them someday because you're really good. And so, anyway, I hear that there's maybe like a mixtape that you guys made, like a dance
Oh,
beat.
No, it was a full music video in
Yeah.
full respect. We
which
went
hasn't
out.
been taken down yet, which is really good. I thought it would be copyrighted or
Dude, I
something.
told you,
but
man, it's a full cover. We put our entire talent, every last drop of it. They can't take offense to that, right?
Can I just say also, we actually did that as part of a dare. We were trying to raise $50,000 for a chosen fan that we were visiting this young fan every week that we were filming in Utah. And he said as a joke, like, you know, it's like cool to have $50,000. He was such a joker, and he was like, "I'm not being serious," but we took him seriously, and unfortunately, he lost his battle with cancer. So we thought, okay, let's take that little joke and let's make it a reality. Let's help out, you know, his family, and let's, you know, kind of yeah, do that in memory of him. And you know what, Chosen fans from all over the world, we're talking Brazil, United Kingdom, Puerto Rico, Spain, Australia, New Zealand came in, and we raised $50,000. And that's why you're seeing us dance around. And I know for a fact, Jared, who's the young boy that we were dedicating this to, he would have been laughing his socks off, honestly.
Now,
It's a real testament to the love and the connection that this fandom has for each other, and
Yeah.
their love and compassion just throughout, because they all came in droves. There was a part where I didn't think we were going to get to our goal, but we did through like
Mm.
all odds. We got it, and we were able to get that money to his family, who honestly absolutely deserved every penny of it. And we were very happy to dance and sing our hearts out in
Make
memory of our
fools of
good friend,
ourselves.
Jared Baker.
now, George, thinking about specifically your character John and its development, and we all know mostly about the Gospels with John and a little bit of mention of John. That's what has been amazing about the Chosen is characters really get more development on the Chosen, right? To really know more about that character. Are you kind of creating in a lot of ways too, based on some of the ideas that the script says for John and putting it into your own?
100%, yeah. It's like, again, like peeking behind the curtain and giving the nuts and bolts of an actor's process. I You know, I think there are moments where I think it's been great that Dallas has kind of stepped in and said, let's keep on this path. So one of the paths that he's wanted me to keep on is let's keep him a little bit cheeky and brash and kind of, you know, a bit of a know-it-all. And you know, you often get that, like there's two ways I'll always deliver a line. I'll deliver it like how we know John now, which is a little bit kind of cheeky, and then I'll deliver it in a more somber way. And Dallas has those two to kind of choose from. And at this stage of John's journey, it's such an interesting character. We kind of do have this kind of cheeky, brash, you know, I want to be the best kind of thing. And that's a complete juxtaposition to, I read this the other day, that because I'm like, oh, why is John considered the disciple of love? Not just the beloved, but the disciple of love. I think he mentions the word. Again, writing in ancient Greek, so he's actually using agape, and he would be using philo. So those are the two Greek words for love. But he mentions it more than anybody, any other New Testament book, if I'm not mistaken. If I've got that wrong, please correct me. But yeah, how do we see this brash, young, impetuous, zealous son of thunder turn into this disciple of love? And that's been the fun of the show. And you know, when we did we did a bit of a flash forward to seeing John. I think if you guys remember in season 2, we see John as an older man, not that much older. But that was another moment where me and Dallas talked about it, and he was like, let's raise the volume a little bit, maybe. And he actually chose all of my subdued performances because it's almost like the Obi, bring the Star Wars connections in. That's like the Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like when he's in like when he's the old man, he's like quiet Luke. But when he's like younger, he's like all agile. He can backflip. So it'd be a really good little good analogy and metaphor for John, for those Star Wars geeks out there.
Oh, easily best analogy I've heard yet. So
I
lead
love
with
it.
that one.
Yeah, I
That's
should.
right. From
I
now
just
on,
came up
lead
with
with
it
that
now.
one. Yeah. So what character is Judas in Star Wars then?
Oh, I think funny enough, that's
Say it. You said
I
it
think
before.
perfectly in opposition to his Obi-Wan. I think Judas is Anakin. I
This
think
is so
he's
good.
a little tempestuous. He's a little whiny. He's got expectations. He's got a lot of potential, but the things he wants to focus on, he just doesn't trust the council, and he doesn't like sand, and he's just constantly surrounded by sand, so he's just constantly agitated. But to to John's Obi-Wan, he tries to take his teachings in strides, but his natural instincts just get the better of him, of wanting more. He knows he wants more, but he shouldn't, could be a better Jedi. But the council.
And you're definitely developing this character as well, Judas. It looks like Dallas lets you go move forward the mannerisms and the way that that character comes to life. It sounds like with him as
It's surprising. Honestly, I've got to give props to Dallas because I do have a lot of ideas, and I always come to him with all that stuff, and he's got a lot of his plate, but he always gives me the time to talk about it and to think. Like he's literally, there are so many other actors. We've got 12 and then some to focus on, but he genuinely always. There was even times where I knew he didn't have the space to take in my ideas or notes, but he literally came to me. He was like, "No, don't stop bringing these to me. Just either I'll agree with them or I won't, but don't stop allowing yourself to like imagine this character and for us to work with this together." But so yeah,
that is
that's
so
just a
cool.
testament to him. He's an
Yeah.
amazing director,
And you
and
hear stuff like that about Dallas. Sorry to interrupt, but he is such a, it seems to me, everybody that I've talked to from The Chosen talks about how incredible the set is, right? How incredible that everybody is together, like a different feeling on the set than anything they've done. I hear that a lot. And it starts at the head, right? And goes on down. So Dallas is kind of creating this or allowing this fun, loving on the outside camaraderie, whatever that's going on.
yeah,
True?
no, he's
Yeah.
awesome.
all
And I,
right.
Yeah.
I literally got like I got like a message on my phone like yesterday from Dallas, and it was a joke and it was funny, and I threw a joke back at him. So yeah, when you can chat to your director like that, I don't even. It sounds weird saying that. I mean, I should give him the respect and say yes, my director, the showrunner, creator of the show. But the reality is, he's all of our friend.
That's great. And that makes it easy to work together, right?
Yeah,
Because if you have a good leader that is able to have everyone feel comfortable, everyone else develops the relationship like you two have.
Yeah. It's all thanks
Yeah,
to
no,
Dallas. We got to
absolutely.
thank him for that sometimes. Like, yeah, the only
Yeah.
reason we're friends. We hated each other when we first met. I was just like, who's this short guy? And I was like, an Aussie? Sure. But Dallas really brought us together. And that's what
So-
solidified our friendship.
That is so cool. You know, one thing that I've wondered, like we see the finished product, right? But you must be take after take after take. So you're hearing words from the Bible. You are hearing Jesus preach take after take after take. Like, is there a difference than if you did just one take? Like, how do you feel about that?
I think there would
by the
be a
way,
pretty big difference.
I was just gonna say that you're the first person who's actually brought that up, because I actually am the one that brings that up usually to people. So you do hear these things over and over, and Jonathan's such an amazing performer, and he delivers it, on the money every single time. So yeah, that is a unique benefit from the show, is that we don't just hear it for the first time like the audience does. We have the pleasure of hearing this 5 times from this angle, and then 10 times from this angle. Is a lot of takes, and so you start hearing different moments and different things. And I remember a very poignant one for me is in season 2, we have the healing of the paralytic, and there's like a question about kingdom of heaven, and Jesus's answer is like obviously a parable taken from scripture. But after listening to that like 20 times perfectly by Jonathan, I'm like, whoa! It's definitely another. You get a very unique take on it,
Totally.
unique understanding.
All right, guys. Season 4 is in theaters and soon will be available everywhere. We'll just have to wait to hear when that happens. But I appreciate you guys both coming by. Great information and great stuff. And you guys really get along. I guess that's why you're on the tour together. So appreciate it.